What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So next week appears to be the week of big announcements, at least from what we are hearing right now. It looks like right now, anyway, next week could have the big PS5 event to kick things off for that system, where we see games, as many rumors have been coming out pretty much over the last 24 hours, with the more and more backing as to next week being finally when we get to see something playing on a PlayStation 5 from Sony. And then even on top of that, there appears to be some sort of write-up being published in Famitsu next week that is going to be, and I quote, rile up the games industry overall, and it has to do with SEGA. Okay, I'm not really sure what it will be 100%, but we'll go over some of the possibilities here and where all this is coming from. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. And we're going to start today with the Avengers. Do you remember that game? Because I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. It was supposed to have been out already. It was going to come out, May 15th of this year, but in January they had to push it to September, so we're all kind of waiting around to see more about it and see why they had to maybe delay it, because a lot of people were making fun of the character models because they look like the Avengers stunt doubles, and the gameplay wasn't necessarily clicking with everyone. But they are going to have a presentation later on this month. They put this tweet out here, and it says, "We've reassembled at home and are working to finish our mission. We can't wait to show you guys new gameplay and co-op in our first Marvel's Avengers War Table stream on June 24th. So I'm hoping that they did go back, not necessarily to the drawing board completely, because there wouldn't have been enough time to do that, but taken some time with this delay and maybe polished it, maybe changed a few things. We know it's going to be like a service-based or games as a service type game, so it's already going to follow that formula, but I'm hoping that the gameplay, and as they say, they show like story events, and some of the gameplay that they showed that were kind of quick flashes looked better. But I need that extended gameplay session where they take us on a story mission and see that it doesn't feel like, I guess, more of a generic games as a service game, that it has its mechanics laid out for what's supposed to keep you going for a while, and then the story is just kind of pushed in. I'd rather focus around the story and having some fun with friends as, superheroes. Also, we got a look at a new Dragon Quest game yesterday. It appears to be kind of a Dragon Quest spin-off style game. I'm thinking in the line of like Dragon Quest Builders as an example of one of their spin-off games, but they did put out a trailer. You can see some of that here, and this is called the Infinity Strash Dragon Quest. It is an action RPG, and it is set to come out in 2021, so we are hearing about this pretty early. So early, in fact, that we don't even have consoles that it's going to come out on. It just says unspecified consoles. And if I had to take a guess, PS4, PS5, Switch, and probably PC, although their PC releases have been kind of spotty at times with Square, so who really knows on that side. But I think it'll definitely go to Switch because of the install size in Japan, and honestly, the game itself doesn't look like it's a massive, quote-unquote, AAA budget style game, but I think they would try to push this everywhere. I almost thought they might even try to put it on like cell phones, for example, as there were rumors leading up to this being revealed that it could have been a cell phone game. They have not told us platforms yet, so it's possible that it could go like to everything, including the Xbox maybe, but Dragon Quest typically stays on PlayStation and Nintendo platforms, but we still have a bit of a wait as it's not even coming out till 2021. But I like the idea of an action RPG smaller than like the Dragon Quest Hero style game, because that's more like a Dynasty Warrior style. I like the idea of like a smaller, almost like Trials of Mana style action RPG for Dragon Quest. Oh, and we also had the Samurai Shodown Neo Geo Collection release date announced, and there are several release dates, and the Epic Game Store seemed to kind of step in here and get a bit of an advantage to start off. So, let's start with that one. On June 11th, it'll be on PC on the Epic Game Store, and for that first week, it appears to just be free, is what it seems. That's interesting. June 18th, it will hit Steam, and then July 28th for the Xbox One, PS4, and the Switch. Originally, they didn't say anything about the PS4 or the Switch, or I'm sorry, the Xbox One, the PS4 and the Switch were there, but the Xbox One wasn't necessarily mentioned, but then they corrected that to Gamatsu. So it looks like it's basically going everywhere. Now, that's going to be digitally initially on the Switch, the PS4, and the Xbox One, with physical copies to follow later. So that's kind of tough because I'm not a big fan when we get digital and then physical later on, as anyone who wants to collect the game, but then also wants to play it immediately the day it comes out is going to end up double dipping on a game that they normally would not. It's Samurai Shodown, but it's Samurai Shodown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's also an unreleased version of 5 as well that's on there, so it looks pretty good. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with SEGA, as there apparently is a massive announcement that will rile up the gaming industry coming next week. Now, this appears to be published in the June 4th edition of Famitsu, so midweek we should find out something, as for the most part, well, these Famitsu articles leak out early, as Famitsu will get into people's hands before publication date, so we might even learn about this thing like the beginning of the week, like on Monday, like immediately. So we'll see there, but let's talk about where all of this came from, as it wasn't a live stream, but this is what they said. My column in next week's issue of Famitsu is crazy. I got a huge scoop. It's a world premiere article and an exclusive. It may not be Nikki or Weekly Bunshin, but if you want to know if it's a scoop that big, it totally is. It's a scoop from a game company that everyone loves. An insane scoop. Last year, Wired got the exclusive story on PlayStation 5, right? Other media didn't. It's that level of a scoop. I interviewed a certain company's executive and technical staff. It's really revolutionary. Really, it's a revolution. And further on in that live stream, they accidentally name-dropped SEGA, it seemed, as people in the chat started to figure this out. And then they just came out and said, did I say SEGA? Yeah, then it's SEGA. Now, this is from the technology journalist Zenshi Nishikawa, and the fact that they're talking to technical developers on Sega's side and executives is odd, because that doesn't necessarily mean a game, because immediately you're like, oh, maybe they're talking about Sonic and they're hyping up. That's the big thing here, hyping up their article. Keep that in mind, because I knew it was going to happen immediately after this got out there. People look and say, Sega's getting into the console world again. I don't know about that. I think Sega might be done on the console side, but they did put out the Sega Genesis Mini, so I kind of was like, okay, well, let's compromise here. Let's say they really are doing the Dreamcast Mini. That would be cool. That would rile some people up because they see the Dreamcast logo back, but would it like be revolutionary? I don't know. I don't think it necessarily would be. It would be exciting. Even if it was the Saturn Mini, that would still be exciting, but I do think Dreamcast name and logo, it would get people more excited than the Saturn name and logo. But what else could do it? Well, maybe they have an exclusivity deal for several titles lined up with someone like Microsoft, who's been pretty buddy-buddy with Sega recently, even going as far as to get Phantasy Star Online 2 over to the West, which is something that had never happened ever. And then here comes Microsoft, and all of a sudden it's on the Xbox and just launched on PC. So maybe they have some kind of deal where they're getting some of their back catalog of IPs, doing remasters or maybe even full remakes, and it's like a set number of like 4 or 5 titles. Hey, if that's what it takes to go get Jet Set Radio and bring it up to current times, I'm on board with that. The other thing that people are pointing out, and I really have a hard time with this one, I would be thinking that a console would be more likely than this, and people are wondering if Microsoft could have outright bought Sega, like straight up. I would be shocked if that was the case, really shocked. I think it's more likely that it could be, just going by what they're saying here, because they could be hyping up something like a Sonic game and they got the scoop on it. But the idea of them pointing out the PS5 with Wired, the fact they're talking to executives and the technical side of Sega, does kind of make me think about hardware, and hey, maybe that Dreamcast Mini really is happening. That's like, if I had to pick something out of all of that, all of the ridiculous thoughts here of what it could be, all right, let's go with the Dreamcast Mini. Here's hoping. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5, as it appears that, at least for now, based on rumors, next week is when we will get our first big-time look at games for the system, maybe even the console, maybe an explanation on features around the DualSense controller, the OS layout. The possibilities are endless, but it seems like since this rumor came out yesterday morning, and I did a video as soon as the rumor dropped on the second channel, so if you did not see that, go check it out. But it seemed like after that information got out there, more and more backing started to come up for it, as people started to elaborate on Twitter a bit more and back back it. Originally, Jeff Grubb really started talking a bit about it, teasing it on Twitter. Then Jason Schreier and Takashi Machizuki released an article about it. And then I see people like Tom Phillips from Eurogamer talk about how this also appears to be a thing, and that because it is so close now, they'd be surprised if it was moved or canceled or anything like that internally. So I am at this point expecting an announcement from Sony either today or tomorrow. Monday would be the absolute latest, but I think they want to give everyone a weekend to kind of do any previews or anything specifically in the press as they get ready for this event next week, as long as everything holds up like it seems that everyone is saying that it will. So what exactly is going to happen here? Well, it seems that a lot of people, specifically even Jeff Grubb on VentureBeat, kind of went on and talked a bit about how Sony should be showing games there first and foremost, as that's what they want to lead off with, but they won't necessarily show pricing or maybe even the system itself, although that would be kind of weird, because they have in mind the idea of the Xbox 2020 that Microsoft is doing, and that they would want to have several events for the PlayStation 5 over the next couple of months leading up to its release, which kind of makes sense. I almost feel like they want to show the games, they maybe want to show the console and the features, and then hit us with the price last. They might even do the price in like a press release or an announcement on Twitter, rather than put it in any type of video or presentation that they do. Keep in mind, these should be pretty much just live streams or pre-recorded footage that they put up, like a state of play, very straightforward, gameplay, features, and then price at some point, but maybe even stretched out to go alongside of Microsoft and their Xbox 2020. Sony seems to like to mess with Microsoft, so it fits, right? The fact that Microsoft will do something like their own inside Xbox, and then Sony will announce something like the DualSense controller an hour or two before then, and no one's talking about Microsoft's event that has like Sea of Thieves DLC or something, right? But interesting stuff, exciting stuff. Looking forward to next week with the big announcement for SEGA and a bunch of PlayStation 5 stuff. Next up, let's talk about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, as the embargo lifted on reviews yesterday, and taking a look at the Metacritic score sitting around an 89 currently. I think it's pretty good. Now, originally the Wii version got a 92, I believe, so this is a little lower than that, but I mean, that was like 10 years ago when it released in Japan, and standards, everything around RPGs have kind of evolved and changed, but the fact that this game still stands up to the test of time over a decade, I think really just shows how good this game is, and I'm more excited now to even check it out as I see some of these scores. Now, I will admit, some of the lower scores kind of surprised me if you take a look at them and read through them a bit. Comic Book, for example, did a review and it didn't read great. It gave it looked like a 60 out of 100. I was a bit surprised because if you take a look at the reviews, most of them are positive. In fact, you can see it's like 51 positive and then 3 mixed. No negative, but those 3 mixed obviously pulled down the review score to an 89. Otherwise, it probably would have been right there with the original Xenoblade on the Wii. So, hey, at least from what we've heard, the resolution is like the big problem. And honestly, if the resolution is the big problem for a game like that, that's pretty good, because we could look back on this game, maybe it's backwards compatible with the next Switch, and then there's like no problem with it, right? At that point, it's just a very clean, beautiful looking game with the assets that they changed out and updated, and a game that plays really, really well. So I'm excited for it. Friday, grabbing it, picking it up, and playing it, and then I'm sure we'll be talking it on the podcast this Saturday night. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about The Last of Us Part 2, because we did have a full state of play around this, and it was like 23, 24 minutes, and like the back half of it, for the most part, was just gameplay. That was the part I was mostly interested in, was to see just uninterrupted, straight up gameplay. I've said this before. If you want to sell a game, sit down and just play it. It's worked. Ghost of Tsushima, I'm sold on, and I gotta say, the gameplay for Last of Us Part 2 looks pretty good overall. Like, if you're watching that and you didn't know anything about the leaks or the spoilers or any of that, and how divisive that has become and frustrating, obviously, to read through it, you would look at this game and say, wow, this looks really, really good. Looks super polished. Ellie can swim now. They did that right away. And some of the other things like the traversal options, like being able to throw a rope down and swing around and stuff, that's fine. They showed upgrading options, which is good too. But one of my favorite parts overall of this gameplay is that they showed a Vita in the beginning. It was super strange, but I love the Easter egg where Ellie kind of holds up, I guess, a person there, and they were playing a Vita, and well, it didn't work out for her or the Vita, obviously, but it was pretty funny to see that kind of just thrown in there. Now, of course, this Naughty Dog probably just like, someone there was like, oh, I like the Vita, let's drop it in. And of course, Sony's like, well, it's our system, let's do something with it. Hey, that's the most that's the most love that Sony's shown the Vita in a long time, and it belongs to a person who just got pretty much wiped out immediately in the gameplay trailer. So there you go. But overall, you know what? I'm still gonna pick up Last of Us Part 2, and at least, if nothing else, the gameplay looks solid to play through, and even if I'm not a huge fan of what happens in the game and the story, it does at least look like, between all the cutscenes and stuff, I'll have a good time running through it. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Visp saying, I just want a bully game, sad times. You know what? I want a bully game too. They should at least remaster the original one, because it did go to the 360, right? Like, you can go into a store and buy Bully in like an Xbox One case. It's the 360 disc that you pop into your Xbox One, and it's just backwards compatible, so it works. I would love to see them remaster it and move it to like current platforms, Switch, Xbox One, PS4, even update the PC version that does need it quite a bit. That would be amazing. We had heard so many rumors about a Bully 2, and then it went silent because, from what people were saying, it was put on the back burner, it was even canceled. And that's a shame, because Bully is like a great game, and I don't really even hear that many people talk about it anymore, like at all. So I think at least a remaster would be really exciting, and just kind of put it out there for people who maybe missed it back on the PS2 or even the Xbox 360. Like I said, we've cycled through gamers quite a bit now to where the 360 was like their first system, and they still might have missed out on Bully. So yeah, I say remaster it, drop it on all the platforms, and then let's work towards Bully 2. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's this rumored PlayStation 5 event for next week that could even be announced today. We'll see, but there's a lot of backing from several people right now, journalists in the industry that have had pretty good sources in the past. So I tend to believe right now that that date is at least set for now, but let me know what you would like to see at this event. And then also, what is this big SEGA announcement for next week? Do you think it's hardware related? Talking to the technical side of SEGA executives, do you think they greenlit something like a Dreamcast Mini, or could they have done the unthinkable and actually getting back into the console world? Interesting stuff. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.